So, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. It has been a minute, or maybe it's been more actually, to be honest with you. I've had some amazing people on my podcast, whether they've been thrivers or survivors of breast cancer, but also people who have done Western medicine, coming across to holistic and everything in between. So I don't sit in a box, I don't put things in a box. What I do is I expand it and make sure that what I'm sharing is going to be something that it's not just for the benefit of myself, but it's the benefit of everyone, because we don't all have the same journey through breast cancer. Having said all of this, I had to go back, believe it or not, and look at when my last episode was, where I was talking about my own healing. And it was actually February of last year. So I think this is well and truly overdue for me to come on and share what's been happening in the year. So what hasn't been happening, let me tell you. So basically, as of the February, it would have been either before or after I went and had my own checkup. And obviously it was all clear and I got the go ahead of see you in 12 months. So in that 12 months, I've actually also traveled overseas. I've actually gone and done some more holistic work on myself. Now, the thing is, this isn't something that I've just done and then I stop. I always say that my journey is 7 years in the making. What I mean by that is, yes, I'm cancer free, but it doesn't mean that I have to go backwards. It doesn't mean I have to go to old patterns or old ways of thinking. And I'm always learning and always trying to be a better version of who I was yesterday. I'm not trying to be anyone else but myself. But this is 7 years in the making, and it's going to keep continuing. I'm not going to stop learning. As I'm still breathing, I will still learn. So I went on a spiritual journey back to Peru, and I decided to sit with a medicine that I've never sat with before. I've never actually sat with this plant medicine. Now, let me just say that these plant medicines in Peru, there was 3 of them that I actually sat with. But the first one was ayahuasca, with a lot of people might have heard of, maybe not, what it is. Like, what is this ayahuasca thing? If you haven't heard of it, ayahuasca is a plant medicine that has come out of the jungle of Peru. Now, what it is, it's a plant medicine that's brewed. Now, you hear of Chinese medicine. They brew herbs and they brew different types of seeds and things like that. In the jungle, what they would do is, prior to having Western medicine, they would use the trees, they would use the plants of the jungle for certain medicines. So ayahuasca is a brew made up of different types of components, one being the ayahuasca tree, but they also put in particular leaves from other trees. The reason being is this actually helps someone to go on a spiritual journey. And I actually sat with people, 3 maestros. We call them maestros just out of respect, but they're 3 shamans, and between the 3 of them, there's probably more than 140 years of experience. So I didn't go to some retreat center with music and glitz and glamour. It was nothing like that. Let me tell you, it was as simple can be. The only thing I had in front of me was a bucket of water, and I was on a mattress. Done deal. No fancy feathers, no fancy things around me, nothing. All I had was 3 maestros or 3 shaman in front of me, and they were doing what they do best, and that is just with the Icaros. The Icaros is the song of the plant, and they would just sing that. So there's no guitar singing, there's no bells, there's no bowls, there's no... I see it all the time. It's really funny because I call them shamans online, because everyone thinks that they're a shaman. The moment they sit a medicine once or twice, they're a guru. So I go to the real deal. It's in the jungle. There's nothing around me. I'm in what we call a maloca, round room. It's me, it's the other participants, and it's the shamans. That's it. And obviously some helpers if I need to go to the bathroom. So I went on this spiritual journey on myself. So I thought, no, it's been a moment, because I have never done the ayahuasca. What I thought I did ayahuasca was actually turned out to be acacia, and the guy, the facilitator, ended up being a fraud. So I realized that as soon as I actually sat with the medicine, because The medicine of ayahuasca, it actually, you hear, it's not about the colors and rainbows and things like that. It's more the insight that you see. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, let's do this. Let's go through this. And this is my personal experience, and everyone has it differently. And you're thinking, why did you have to do it? I knew I had some other stuff. We're talking 47 years is when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I'm sure I'm holding on to some BS that I had to get rid of. So sitting with the ayahuasca, I remember sitting there thinking, okay, yeah, all right, let's see where we go. Don't judge. There's no expectations, but let's just see where we go. And so here I am sitting there, and all of a sudden the medicine's being served to everyone, even the other participants that came with us. And then what happened was I was sitting there and they started to sing the plants of the medicine. Now, the plants of the medicine can actually either bring up the medicine or it can actually bring it back down. So I remember thinking to myself, oh, I feel a bit queasy in the stomach. And ayahuasca is known for purging. And I'm thinking to myself, I feel I'm about to purge. And as I pick up my bucket, I start purging. And I'm like, okay. But the crazy thing about it was the moment I was trying to get my toilet paper to wipe my mouth and things like that, all I kept hearing is that inner voice of, we don't have time for this. We're going again. So I was just kept purging and purging. And what I realized was I was actually not just purging something that was deep within, because initially the purge, because you don't eat, so you don't really purge food. But I thought the original ones, probably the medicines, probably other things, water, whatever. But then I could tell the difference, what was a sickness and what was energetically. Now you're probably thinking, oh, where is she going with this? This all sounds woo-woo and things like that. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but this is my way of healing. This is my story, and this is why I wanted to share it. So I went on, because you got to remember, I went on this journey when I healed myself, because I got rid of a lot of stuff along the way. So I could tell the difference, and I could see when my body was bringing up something, because the way my body was moving, it was bringing up something from like a sickness, like something that was attached to me. And I can also bring up something that was energetically. And we all know that diseases are caused by emotions and things that we hold inside. So I wasn't scared. I wasn't concerned of anything. Yeah, it did take my breath away sometimes, but I knew what it was doing. It was cleansing me. So I knew that was the best thing for me. It was starting to shift things in my life. And what it did is it brought back some things about my relationship with my husband. And we always I talk about it a lot, probably offline as well as online sometimes, about my relationship with my husband, because it does take time to nurture a relationship. It does take time to be there for the person, grow together and things like that. So I knew it had something to do with that. So I was going on a personal journey with my husband around that time. So I knew I had to get some things in balance as well as myself. Fast forward, I then went into the Andes and I did Wachuma, which is also a plant medicine, but this time it's a cactus. And what that did is, for me, again, this is my journey, my spiritual journey. And what that did was it reset. It basically, the ayahuasca cleansed out a lot of things, and the Wachuma reset my priorities for myself. What are your priorities, Grace? What's your purpose? So I was going through that, and there wasn't a lot of purging, but there was a lot of insight. There was a lot of writing in my journal about what different things meant about people, no matter how much you try and help people, if they don't want to help or heal themselves, how I can't do anything. I can only bring the information to them, but I just can't make them do exactly what I say. And that was fine. So I went on that journey. So it was basically getting rid of some stuff and re-healing it with some new stuff. And then the last journey I went through was a dieta. They call it a master plant. And again, this was back in the jungle, back with these 3 shamans that have got 140 years experience between them all. And that was called Bobinsana. Now, Bobinsana is actually a medicine of the heart, so it opens up the heart. I actually, through Wachuma as well, I felt connected to Great Spirit. I felt that Great Spirit, whoever you believe in, God, Jesus, Buddha, whoever it is. But in my case, I believe in great spirit. There's something bigger than all of us. And I remember going on that journey and thinking to myself, I needed this because I needed to get in touch with a higher purpose than me. So then there was faith, there was trust. So when I was going through some difficult moments, I knew that there was some faith and trust. And that's what the Wachuma did. So going into the Bobensana, it just brought all of them together, and it just locked it in such a beautiful space that I felt lighter. I felt like I had gotten rid of stuff, my limiting beliefs, things that weren't really true, a little bit of my anxiety. There was even a moment where one of the maestros or one of the shamans actually realized that I was holding on to stagnant fear. And stagnant fear is when something scares you. And what was it? I don't know. And I didn't need to know, but he made that shift. And by shifting that, my fear level went from really high. Now we're in the jungle. I'm not a big fan of spiders, especially. I don't come across snakes or anything, but spiders, doesn't matter how big or small they are, I have a phobia of. And you can imagine I'm in the jungle and there's some huge tarantulas around, and I'm like, okay, we're going to have to live here together for a couple of weeks. But what happened was, the moment that fear shifted, it just didn't shift in that moment. I was in the same room as a massive tarantula and I felt okay. I didn't feel afraid, because normally I would go through the window if the door was locked. So things like that. So that was where that brought me, where I was able to let go of fear. So the fear that I used to have always, I still get anxious and I still get scared. It's normal, but I don't have that fear like I had. And it just really made me see things a little bit different. And I really needed to, again, it made me realize I needed to touch in with myself. I was probably not going back to my old self, but getting some old habits, and they were sneaking back in. And one of them being putting others before myself. What do they think? What would they say? So that really helped me be able to speak honestly, speak my truth. And that was really beautiful. And then from there I went and spent some time in Italy, and then we got back, and then it was back to work. So that was last year. So going forward to that, I'm on my yearlies come up in February of this year. So this is what I mean by fear. And again, this is me. I'm not telling every woman to do this. No, I'm not. So I had my exams done in February of this year. I had to run some other exams because I'm sure I've mentioned it before. I've also got a nodule growing near my heart that they keep an eye on. So I went and had my CT scan for that. Now this year I decided I didn't want to do a mammogram. Now this is where I say to people, please do your homework. Make sure you really ask the questions, because I'm hearing more and more things about mammograms. So I thought, you know what? It's not sitting right until I get 100% information again about it, because I've had mammograms done every year since 2013. So we are talking about more than 10 years. So I decided not to do a mammogram. So I contacted my surgeon and I asked if I could do an MRI. Now, in Australia, even if you have been diagnosed with breast cancer, if you're over the age of 50, you have to start paying your own MRI. So the last time I had an MRI, I think, was because they thought they saw something, and it was in 2020 or 2021. So I really wanted to do a catch-up MRI instead of a mammogram. So I contacted my surgeon, she called me straight back and said, I hear that you want to do a MRI as opposed to a mammogram. Of course, I don't say why. I don't say, because I'm hearing it's bad news, because I don't know my facts yet. But what I did was I decided, yes, I want to do an MRI, because that's what picked up my cancer in the first place. I decided to do that. So I had an ultrasound and an MRI. Now, this was all in February. I've gone to my doctor to make sure that the nodule hasn't grown. And he says the magic words, see you in 12 months. So thank you for that. Thank you. And then just yesterday, now we're talking yesterday, which is March. I normally don't wait more than 3 minutes to get my results, let alone 3 hours, but imagine 3 weeks. That is the longest I've ever done between a scan and a phone call. Now you're probably saying to me, why did it take you so long? I had things I was doing in life. Life continues. Again, remember we always say life keeps turning. It doesn't stop for us when we're going through this. But what happened was I had the faith. The fear had come down a bit. The anxiety came up only because when I went to reschedule my appointment, they said, sure, by the end of February, we're going to contact you and schedule an appointment for March. And I thought, that's fine. I'm still going to come. And then my surgeon rang me and said, Grace, I'm not sure what's going on, but you need to come and see me. So that puts a little bit of anxiety. So I reached out to my surgeon and I just said, listen, I'm away. I've got a little bit of anxiety. Is everything okay? Now, she doesn't call everyone because she gets over 100 different scan reports a day. But what she did say that made me feel at ease was, hey, Grace, this is just protocol. Now, I know my breast cancer surgeon. There is no way she would have allowed me 3 weeks without contacting me had there been something. So again, this is the reassurance. Bad news travels quicker than good news. So this was my reassurance that everything was going to be all right. So fast forward till yesterday, I went in and I was told that my ultrasound came back clear and my MRI came back clear, and she's done a physical exam. She's happy with where things are going, and she said to me, I'll see you in 12 months. Now, this is me being transparent because I will tell you everything she says to me. Again, she asked me how I did the chemo. Did you do chemo, Grace? And I can understand she's got a lot of patients. So did you do the chemo, Grace? No, I didn't. Did you do radiation, Grace? No, I didn't. Did you take any tablets? No, not even one, not even half. And then she looked at me and she said, okay. And I said to her, this is me being honest. I said, we're good. We're good and we're going to continue being good, okay? What that meant for me was we're good. We're going to work together. You want me to come every 12 months? I'll come every 12 months. You want me to come every 6 months? I will come every 6 months. But we're good. I don't want to put that negative energy out there. I don't want to think, oh, what if, blah, blah, blah. The only thing she asked of me to do was to do another BRCA test. Now, within the 12 months that I obviously haven't been on my own podcast talking about my own healing journey, is that I've had now another family member on my mother's side, which is her sister, who was diagnosed with breast cancer. Now, this is the first thing I did. I didn't ask for anyone's permission. I contacted the BRCA genetic center, who I did the genetic test back in 2018 or 19. I contacted them and I said, listen, my auntie, my mum's sister from the maternal side, is now being diagnosed with breast cancer. Now she's become, so there's my grandmother, there's my mother, there's my auntie, there's my other auntie, there's a cousin from another auntie. This is all maternal, and then there's me. So we're now 6 people in our family. So what I said was, where do we go from here? Now, she did say to me at the time, it's best that you do a genetics test. Let's just do a refreshment genetic test. And I thought, that's fine. But I didn't really follow that up. However, when I went to see my breast cancer surgeon yesterday, that was the first thing she told me to follow up, because I hadn't done a BRCA genetic test since 2019. Now, you're probably thinking, what changes, Grace? The thing with these genetic tests that I could understand at the time, back in 2019, they might test for, say, 15 different genetics. But by the time now we've come to 2025, which is, 6 years later, things could have changed. They could have tried and tested other genetics. So instead of having 15 genetics tested, there might be a range of 30 genetics tested. So the moment she said that, she wrote down a letter, she's sending it off to them, and I contacted them myself to make an appointment to go and do that genetics test. Now, you're probably thinking, Grace, are you fearful that you've got it? No, but it's not just for me. You've got to understand, this is why it's really important. I stress this out to my family, and I'm going to be transparent. I reached out to an auntie and a cousin, 2 aunties and a cousin, and I said to them, guys, I'm going to do a genetics test again for the BRCA gene. Have you guys done it, or haven't you done it? Are you deciding to do it? The reason being, I have sisters, so therefore I'm going to do it for them. But I also have nephews who their children, if they have girls, can carry the gene. But it's not only that. For my aunties and cousins, they've got sisters, they've got children, they've got daughters, they've got granddaughters. So that's why I thought, well, let me do this. I'm going to do it, whether they decide to or not. I heard crickets, which is fine. It's not my journey, it's their journey. If they don't want to do it, that's fine. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for my family, my sisters and my nephews. So I really thought it was really important to do this because, like I said, I need to know for myself first, but I also need to know for my sisters. Does it put them at a higher risk as well? Is it even higher, a higher risk? One of my sisters, I mentioned it back in the days, she decided to have a double mastectomy, not because she was diagnosed with breast cancer, but she was actually getting a hysterectomy. And because they were putting her on hormonal tablets, they actually said to her, it's probably best you do a double mastectomy because there could be a higher chance of getting breast cancer because your mum was diagnosed, your auntie and things like that. So that reduces hers. But I've also got 2 sisters that haven't done anything as well. So this is why it was important for me to make sure that these tests were done. And so I'll be waiting for the phone call to go and get these blood works done to make sure and rule out that I am not part of the BRCA gene. That's a totally different thing if that was to come out positive. The thing that I'm proud of in the last 12 months is, like I said before, I'm moving forward with my life. I still go and get tests. I still go and do the right things. I try and be a better version of who I was yesterday. I'm there helping people. I really want to share what's going on out there. And I want people to be encouraged with what I'm saying. I'm proof. I'm sitting here. I was diagnosed in 2018 and I'm sitting here in 2025 telling you I'm cancer free. And I've been told by my surgeon, in actual fact, it's bittersweet moment because my surgeon has now moved me off her list and she's put me back to a breast cancer doctor who I got to go and do my yearly checkups. So it's bittersweet because it means I probably see her in the corridor, but I actually don't see her anymore as a patient-doctor relationship. That's great in a way, but I really respect my surgeon. So yeah, I'm going to miss seeing her. But knowing that she's now put me onto just the breast doctor, just for my checkups, because she thinks everything is fine, everything is peachy keen going forward. So I think one of the best moments out of all of this is still learning how I can better myself. How can I be a better version of myself? How can I be better for me to help others? Because if I can't help myself, I can't help anyone. And if I don't fix certain parts of me, I can't then go and tell you how to fix it if I haven't done it. So that's probably one of the proudest moments. The most surprising thing, guys, that I've also learned this year in the last 12 months is the amount of new information that's coming out there, whether it's good information or whether it's not so good information. Now, let's talk about the not so good quickly. And there's things like what we're learning now is the C19 vaccine are creating turbo cancers. Now, a lot of people don't believe that, but there's actual studies, there's actual facts to back that up. And there's a lot of oncologists coming forward saying we're inundated with all of these turbo cancers. So that's the cons that's been coming out in the last 12 months. The other thing was what I shared before about mammograms. They're finding studies that what mammograms are doing is they're not creating, but they could be creating. I don't want to sit here and know it like it's coming out of my mouth. It's actually coming out of, again, people who do researches and studies about the mammograms, and they're not just these holistic beings that just want to say don't do a mammogram, but they're talking about how mammograms now are either not sufficient or they're creating issues, and especially breast cancer. So that's hence why I hesitated to get it done this year. I'm thinking to myself, I'm 6 years or 7 years, whichever way you want to see it, cancer free. I'm not going backwards. So this is what stopped me from going forward and doing the mammogram. But again, I'm making sure, at the moment I'm looking at a thermo machine that it's not pressing your breast against two metal pieces of plastic. It's just like an MRI. You lay forward and you let your breast naturally fall forward with nothing constricting them, and that's how they check it. So there's this new thermotherapy out there. Now in Australia they don't have it and they don't advise it. So for now I'm doing my research other than mammogram, what else is out there. Now, this is why I always say my hallucination, if you don't want to do a mammogram, ask for an MRI. Yeah, you might be out of pocket, but now in Australia, I was out of pocket $500 and you don't get that back from Medicare. But when I think about spending, in my case, when I think about spending $500 every 12 months, you know what? I probably spent $500 on, or more actually, on lattes when I purchased at a cafe. That's money well spent, $500. So that was what it was. Here in Australia, mine was $500 out of pocket. My ultrasound was $254 in Australia out of pocket, and I think I got back $40 from Medicare, something like that. But again, if I'm doing these tests, even my PT scan I had to pay for was $350. So between my PT scan, my CT scan, my MRI and my ultrasound, if you put the money together, it's almost close with doctors, catch-ups and all of that. It's close to probably about $1,500. Let's say car park, doctor's appointments and scans. But when I look at it in 365 days, I probably spend more money on stuff that I don't need in a whole year. So $1,500 is definitely money well spent. So that was the cons, guys. That was what I was learning and things like that in this last 12 months. The pros, though, is I'm hearing about ivermectin. I'm hearing about fenbendazole or mendabenzole. Now, the difference I got told between the fenbendazole and the mendabenzole, which you can see in one of my podcasts actually, is the fact that one is for horses and the other one's for humans. So there's no difference. That was the only difference between the two medications. But I'm hearing more and more people, studies are showing more and more people are healing themselves with ivermectin and either fenbendazole or mendabenzole, I think it's called. Again, there's a great podcast episode that I have where I speak to someone about it, and it's really important you get the right information. If you do, I'm not here to tell you what to do, not to do. However, if whatever treatment you decide, I always say this, whatever treatment you decide to do, make sure that you know who the person is behind it. Are they going to support you? Do they have the right information? Because there's a lot of cowboys out there, and I've actually deleted podcasts where people have promised something and it turned out to be misinformation or fraudulent. So I don't stand by that, guys. If what they say is gospel and they've got a lot of testimonials behind it, and there's people I know and things like that who might have tried it and it's going well, then this is legit. When you can't back it up for me, I call it a day. I get it off my podcast, because I'm not going to be here to share about stuff that's not true. It's not who I am. So they're the pros of what's been happening in the last 12 months. But it's not just that, guys. There's so much information out there. Everything is always getting updated, always. So I always say to people, make sure the best thing you could do is put a dream team together, because there is a lot of information out there. And if you're already overwhelmed with the treatments you're doing and you're thinking, oh my God, I don't want to read about that, it's overwhelming, get someone in your dream team to do it. This is where I become part of people's dream teams, because a lot of people say, hey Grace, I want you on my team. And that's where I do it. I do the mentoring. I say mentoring, but really deep down, I'm just part of your dream team. And what I'm doing is I'm doing what do you want me to research on? And I'll do it. What do you want me to find? What do you want me to confirm or deny? I'll do the research for you. So this was what it was really important. But one other thing that I wanted to mention as well on this podcast is lately I've been sharing what I've done. Now, what I've done is not there as gospel. You must do it. I never say that. This is always disclaimer. I'm not a medical profession. I'm not going to sit there and tell you what you have to do. But if you want to try things, this is why I have all these different people, but this is why I share my own story. So what I did was I started to reach out to groups of Facebook, and I started to share some of the tools and resources that I did. And it's quite interesting because what I get when I share the resources that I have, and I give people like a free guide. So then there's like point forms of things that people can follow. I'll make sure I have that link as well available on this podcast so you can get it. It's for free. It's for free. And it's like almost 28 pages full of free information. And it's things that I learned along the way. Some might resonate with you, some might not. But I find it quite interesting joining some of these Facebook groups that they tell me, hey, this is just like another promotion. How am I promoting? I think I'm sharing. What I learned, what I went through is to be shared, not to be kept for myself. So to hear these women commenting, I just think it's just all blab and they're probably wanting to sell you something. No. If I'm trying to reach out to you, I'm trying to say, hey, choose me as part of your dream team if you're going through something, if you don't want to share it with your family, or if you want me to join your dream team, if you want to have someone with my background in your dream team. That's all I'm saying. I'm not here to push the narrative. But what I wanted to do was show you how these are things that I've done. And it's probably not the same way, but as an example, you go on TikTok and 5 easy new finds on Amazon for your kitchen finds or things like that. And it shows you all of these gadgets and how many people go, that would really help me in the kitchen. So what do? They jump on Amazon and they purchase that. It's the same sort of thing. Actually, what she says here might actually help me. Is it in her guide? Great. I didn't even have to pay for it. So what, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So I find that really, I find it hard where people can judge me not knowing my story. If I'm joining these groups, guys, I'm not just anyone. I'm someone who's gone through breast cancer myself. I am now on the other side. So I'm reaching out saying to people, it's okay. It's okay. You'll be okay. So I wanted to also mention that because if you see me on social media and you see my little posts here and there, and it actually says you want to know more, click here or whatever, and I give you the free guide. I give you the free guide. It's not, here's the front page of the free guide and the rest of it you got to pay. It's free. It's absolutely free. So you got nothing to lose. You could click on it. You could download it. You don't want to download it. Cost you nothing, zero. So I really wanted to mention this on my podcast as well because I thought it was really important that lately I've had people just judging me, and that's one thing. Do I care being judged? No, I don't. So I'm not out there throwing my point of view, how dare you, things like that. I actually just reach out and say, why am I being judged? Tell me what I've written here that you find it that I'm you could judge me, or you can say something when you don't actually know the story behind it. You didn't get my guide and then send me a message and tell me how crap I am or how great I am, whichever one you like. But that's the one thing I've learned this whole year, guys. I have become more of an empath. I've become more humble, and I really have realized what it means to move on, even when every year I've got to go and do my yearly exam. She could have said, Grace, I gave you a year off. I want to see you in 6 months. She could have said that, and I still would have gone in 6 months. So this is something I've got to live with. The moment I'm still breathing, I'm still going to do my scans. This is where I say that holistic works with Western. I still go and get my blood tests. I still go and get my scans. Whatever is asked of me, I still go and get them done. I don't want to pretend that it's going to be okay. Oh, Liana, she said that. Yeah, she's told me to do a bracket test. I did it back in 2019. Everything's going to be fine. Yes, I know everything's going to be fine, but I'll still do it. Why? Because for me, I did the right things. I'm looking at the bigger picture and I'm choosing what's important. The more information I have on my report to show that I'm good, the better it is. So this is why it's really important, guys, to make sure that you understand that if you are getting told to do your scans monthly, yearly, 6 months, 3 months, go and do them. It's also for yourself to have a peace of mind that everything's going. I really wanted to come on, guys, and really share this part of my journey. It was really important for me to actually come here and say, hey, hi there, as opposed to getting these amazing people on my podcast. And I've actually been guests on other people's podcasts to share my story, which has been amazing. It's been really beautiful to be able to share my story on other platforms as well. But I really wanted to come and share all of this, and I look forward to the next 12 months, whatever they may be. I'm traveling again. I'm doing some more work on myself, spiritually, physically, emotionally, psychologically. I keep doing it. It's an ongoing process, guys. No matter whichever mentor I go to, or whether I go back into the jungle or in the Andes to do some more work, this is what I'll be doing, because the better I understand me, the better I could be of assistance to others. I thank you guys again, and I appreciate you guys either listening or watching, and I thank you all for being here. And like always, guys, I wish you so much love and light.